don't really have anything to say or anything to discuss. Just doing a stream for no fucking reason. Yeah. I was on some topic earlier. I was thinking about memories and how they are they're deceptive. I was thinking about more specifically photos and how useless photos become the older you get. My mother, hello BTK by the way. My mother has been scrapbooking for the past year, compiling a lot of old photos of our family, of my sister and I as kids, my niece and nephew. And I look at these photos as she's got them all sprawled out, putting them together, and it's like, I recognize a lot of the photos. I recognize the people in the photos. I recognize myself and my sister and my stepsisters, back when they were my stepsisters. And those instances from when those photos were taken, but I don't recall any of the events that took place in those photos. You know, and it's a weird sensation because it's like you're looking at photos of people you recognize at a time in their life that you recognize, that you were a part of, but you just have such little connectivity to it. You know, the meaning of it has kind of escaped you, and you're just looking at a younger version of yourself and trying to piece together what it was that was going on at that moment, you know, what was going on at that time. And you don't even really know anymore, you know, it's like it just fades into the background. And I realize that that's happening more and more as I see photos, not just old family photos, but old photos that I've taken of friends and people I know. It's like a lot of that stuff just becomes background, and it loses. I lose my connection to it, and it stops meaning anything. And then I start to think, well, why am I holding on to all these photos? You know, if they don't really mean anything anymore, they just start to become, I can't really say it's like photos of strangers because I recognize the people in the photos, but it might as well be, because as my memory fades of a lot of this stuff, you know, my connection to it diminishes. And it's a weird situation you find yourself in, because it's not like just a photo you found of some people you don't know. It's different, but it still has that same sort of disconnect feeling, you know, about it the older you get, unless you like see those photos a lot. I mean, back when I was younger, me and my friends used to watch, we used to videotape ourselves all the time. We always had camcorders and shit. We'd always like videotape ourselves, and we would literally just like, we'd spend all day with a fucking camcorder just recording ourselves doing shit. And then we'd go watch what we recorded, like literally right after. We were psychotic. But we would hold on to those videos and we'd just watch them over and over and over. And we'd always reflect on shit we did. I mean, when we used to get together and party in my friend's basement, we'd get together with, you know, our alcoholic beverage of choice, and we would just sit around a table and we'd drink, and we would literally just recount stories of stuff that happened like last week, you know, and we'd always be telling these stories of our life as we lived it, as though it was like a long distant memory of the past, you know. And it's crazy because nowadays we don't talk about the past anymore. It's kind of bizarre. Like, I brought this up with one of my friends, one of my long-time friends. And it's like, I told him, I was like, man, I got some old videos, you know, like of us back when we were in high school and shit. It's like, you wanted me to bring them by sometime, just check it out. He's like, no, I don't want to see any of that. He's even said that about old footage of like band performances and things like that of the band that he was in. I was like, you want to see any of that? Nope. He doesn't want to see anything of the past. He doesn't want to recall, recount, relive anything. And that made me realize, like, there's this point that that some people, I guess, reach where they let go of it, you know. But it used to be such a huge part of our lives, you know. I mean, just living in almost a permanent state of recalling our memories and keeping them fresh. And then we stopped. And now our memories are getting so faded and so distant that I don't even think we could, even if we tried, we could recall them accurately, you know, which is weird. But that's kind of the way things have gone for us. And even just getting us together in a room is becoming more and more difficult. I don't know. It's like everything is just slipping away the older we get. My girlfriend was going through photos of us from the last 2 to 3 years last weekend. I was like, yep, that's a picture of me being assaulted by photons. No clue where or why, when, but that's me. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like what I mean. It's, you just, I mean, there's always some photos that are like, they are always like, it's just you at some moment in time, and you can't really place when or where. And, you know, somebody snapped a photo of you and like, oh, there's me. But there's some photos that I've seen of myself that I've held on to myself, or other people have, you know, held on to, where it's like, I remember some details of it, and I have memories of it that hold up over time, but all the scenarios around it, like most of my photos are like, for me as a teenager, are of parties, you know. And it's like, I struggle to remember any of those parties, obviously. But it's like people I met, people we'd party with, people we'd hang out with, just different scenarios and situations. And it's like, it's just a snapshot of a moment in time. And it means something for a little bit, because when you can recall what it was, but once you lose grasp of that, it just ceases to be anything other than a snapshot of a person you knew at a specific point in time, and sort of freezes them forever in that age, which I guess is what people like about photos. But to me, it's like, I don't know. I guess I just don't see it that way anymore. I don't see him. I look at, I mean, if I go to like my Facebook page and I pull up photos from even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, it's like, there's so many photos ever since we got digital cameras and phones with cameras on them. Photos have become such a constant thing in our lives, you know, like back in the days when you had to actually take film, you know, photos on film and get that shit developed. You know, you weren't snapping photos left and right. You know, you were kind of, you know, saving that shit up for like important things, important events. And even though you were saving it up for that, half the photos ended up being garbage anyway, because nobody knew how to take fucking photos. Instant cameras did the best they could with whatever flashes they had, but half the time, I mean, I'm so old that instant cameras from my era had the actual fucking flash bulb things that you had to stick in the top, and when you took the picture, it'd pop, and then you'd have to turn it to the next thing, and then you take another picture and pop, because it's literally blowing out a filament. You know, it's literally destroying itself. So you had to be insanely careful about taking photos, because once you go through all of your fucking flashes, that's it. Like every other picture beyond that's going to be dark. I mean, that's old school shit. Then, you know, but in the digital era, everyone just takes photos of everything like it's no big deal. And I've got thousands upon thousands of photos. And will I ever look at all of them again? Probably not. They're just I'd say they're collecting dust. They're collecting digital dust. They're on a hard drive somewhere amongst the litany of computers that I've had over the years. I mean, on a hard drive just somewhere in a fucking basement or somewhere, just waiting to be discovered apparently one day. But in a lot of cases, it's just like Facebook. It becomes a repository for a lot of photos. And I think a lot of people don't even remember half the photos they upload there. And it just sort of like, gets buried in time. I think about all the photos that Sarai and I have taken of trails that we've gone on that we've probably looked at once and then never looked at again because, it served its purpose. And now it's like, I mean, sometimes we'll go back and we'll look at some of the special hikes, like Pictured Rocks, things like that. But there's a lot of those hikes that we did to like just some random trail. We'll never look at those photos again. Even if we did, we wouldn't even know where the hell we were, what we were looking at. And it's like, why did we take this photo? Why are we holding on to this photo? And that's what got me thinking tonight. It's like, why do we hold on to it? I mean, if a photo has lost all significance and you can't even really place what it is or where it is or whatever, it's like, why hold on to it? I think it's because we become digital pack rats after a while. It's like we don't want to throw it away because it could mean something to someone. It could have some sort of significance that we don't understand at that point in time. So we're going to hold on to it just in case it comes back. We remember it at some time or somebody else remembers something. And it's like, it's just, our fear of letting go of things that don't really matter anymore because in a weird way, I kind of feel like life is not supposed to be remembered in that way. It was never supposed to be remembered in photos and video. It's supposed to be remembered in our minds because our minds are imperfect capturing devices, so to speak. Like, we don't remember things as they actually happen. We remember them in weird collective tidbits of information that's kind of stored throughout our brain, and we can kind of recall it and compile it, but the story is never the same. It's always a little different because the storage mechanism of our brain is not a snapshot. It's not like a video. It's not like a photo. It's a collection of sensations and experiences that we had that get stored, and we have to recall it because a lot of it's going to be the same information. So it doesn't have to be restored. It doesn't have to be collected repetitively. That's one of the things, saving graces of the human mind, is that our mind doesn't just sit there and like if you have a recording device, like a camera, a video camera, things like that, it's got to sit there and take photos and record the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And you end up with so many duplicates of the same thing that it's like, wow, what a waste of time. What a waste of storage. And that's what, I don't want to get off into the weeds, but this is where encoding comes into play. Like, the thing about encoding is, like, engineers figured out a long time ago, why sit there and take a photo of the same picture over and over and over and over and over? It's like, if it's not going to change, then leave it. Take one photo and just pull from that and utilize that. And then all the other changing elements of the image, that's the things that you can update and change as it happens. But and they get it down to, like, not to the pixel level, but to the level of like quadrants of a sensor. And basically it's just an analysis of the changing frames of a sensor. And if you have like a certain area, like in my background right now, that as far as the encoding scheme, that would not change, especially the outer corners, until my hand passes over it. Like, that's the only time that information would change. It would be like the same information would get pulled to regenerate this image in an encoding structure. And that's the way a human mind works. And that's one of the brilliant aspects of engineering and how it takes practical, real life things and applies it to science and technology. It's implementing how our brain functions into the scientific world and applying it. And I think that's wonderful. I think that's great because that's absolutely how our brain works. It doesn't store the images that we see every second of every day over and over and over and just catalog this stuff until the end of time. It stores like these things that you see. Like if I see a cup of tea, there's elements of that in my brain where I've kind of, my brain has scanned this tea enough times to where I know what the tea is. I can see it and my mind immediately makes that connection, tea. And I'm not, the crazy part about the photoreceptors of the eyes relaying to the brain, experiencing all that, is that I don't have to remember this tea. I can see it. My brain can make the connection of what it is, but it doesn't have to retain that information. It just has to be able to do it to where I can interact with it in reality, in real life, but I don't have to remember it. It doesn't have to be stored. It's just sort of incoming. In a lot of ways, I feel like the older you get, the less retention you have, and the more you're just kind of experiencing living. I think that's where the time dilation aspect of age difference comes into play. Because when you're younger, it's like everything seems to take longer. Your lifespan, especially early age, it seems like days take months, you know, and all that. I think it's because at that time you're still learning and growing, and your brain is still formulating those pathways to memorize the physical world around you. So you're retaining a lot more data, and you're much more present in that time. Whereas as you get older, your brain has absorbed so much of the world around you that it doesn't have to do that stuff anymore. And it's almost on autopilot, really. So you're living in a live stream, really, kind of. And, you're just taking things in and processing it, and it just goes so much faster because your brain doesn't have to exert any more effort and work into storing anything until something new comes along. But I think even when you get older, your brain just stops doing that shit no matter what. Like you get to a point where even new information isn't going to get stored because all the neural pathways have been formed, and you're just experiencing it in the reality, but your memory is going to not be very good. And I think that's what my explanation as far as like the time dilation aspect of it is. Like you're experiencing it, but you're not remembering it as clearly as you would when you were younger. So in a lot of cases, you're kind of not getting the same experience when you're older. And that's kind of a drag, but it kind of changes your perspective on how you think about life and what's important and what's not. Because dwelling in the past is fine for a while, but after a while, it's like when your memories have faded to such a point where you can't even recognize shit you see in photos and videos, and it just stops meaning things. You start to realize the only thing you have left in your life is the moments that you have going forward, and the real world live stream constant influx of things coming to you. And you have to maximize that and have your experiences there. Like tonight, I took my dogs out for a walk, and I was driving back, and I ended up driving past, I'm not even joking, literally a dozen deer just standing in the fucking road. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. But it's one of those experiences where it's like, man, check this out. This is cool as hell. But it's going to fade really fast. I mean, I'll probably have forgotten it by 2 days from now, probably by tomorrow. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it was special and it was cool, but it's not the kind of thing that you catalog away in your brain as a life defining or, a defining moment of your life, so to speak. Good evening, Red Feather. I'm enamored by that shit. That shit fascinates me because the older I get, the more I start to realize like my body is starting to slip away. Well, I mean, I'm trying to make it sound like I'm already fucking 80 years old. You know, I got a plenty of life left in me, but I can feel the change. I can feel like my concern and my acknowledgement of what's important and what's not have shifted so dramatically that I don't even recognize myself from a younger period, because it's like the things I used to care about and things I used to desire are so, you know,